again, I am Kirsten Rucker and welcome to Bella Graffito Art. First off, I want to start off with a very big apology for me because I really planned to get 2 videos out every month, but honestly, in the last couple months, life has, for lack of a better phrase, kicked me in the butt. And so it's kind of delayed the videos a little bit, but I wanted to make sure I at least got one for this month situated. And today's video, we are going to be talking about projects I've currently been working on. So it's more of a stress relief type project that I've been doing, which kind of seems like what a lot of my artwork is, but there's nothing wrong with that. I really enjoy abstract expressionism, and a lot of my artwork is based in that realm. If you want to, please check out my Etsy shop. If you remember, a while back, I did have to give up my other website due to financial reasons. Like I said, life has been kicking me in the butt, but I was able to put some things on Etsy. So please follow the link below. Check out my pieces that I have for sale on there. I've got originals. I also have art prints. I'm slowly adding things to that just to kind of see how things will go on that platform. But the ultimate goal is to still have my own website. So for today's video, like I said, I'm just going to show you guys some things I've been working on. Art is such a huge way for me to relieve stress, and I want to show you a couple paintings that I have created in order to help relieve stress. I had some gouache paintings that I had worked on, and I was so excited to work on those because it had been so long since I was able to even work with gouache because I just felt like I lost my groove. But I have those paintings that I'd love to show you, and then I also have some new funky watercolor paintings that I've been working on too, and I'll also show you the supplies I've been using for those. The first set of paintings I want to show you are some simple watercolor paintings that I created. And these are actually the most recent paintings that I have worked on. So I wanted to work on some paintings that used water and watercolor just trailing through the water. So instead of picking up the watercolor on the brush and painting something specific, I laid down trails of water with a large wash brush. So just basically a large paintbrush. And then after that, I had these little trails and little puddles going throughout the paper. So then I started using some of the Jack Richardson semi-moist tempera and a small brush to kind of let it trail through here. I also used some of this Jack Richardson watercolor. It is such a nice bold watercolor, and the semi-moist tempera is super bold too. So it was really great to dunk it into the different colors. I only wanted to use 3 to 4 and then just let it trail through and see what would happen. And I've seen people do things like this before, so this definitely isn't anything new, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just really fun to try out something I haven't tried before. So as you can see, there's some really cool puddles that happen. There's different areas where the watercolor kind of clouded up and, pooled up, and then it mixed in with the different colors, but it didn't get too muddy. So I really liked doing this, and I ended up doing a series of these that I have stacked here, and I just wanted to experiment with different ways of using the brush, different ways of putting the water on the paper. So in some areas I would do these larger streaks, some areas I'd go back and make smaller trails with a smaller paintbrush, mostly using a round paintbrush. So I was mostly using a brush like this. So not a huge brush at all, just a really simple round brush. It had a nice tip on it, and that was actually helpful when I was getting closer to some of these little areas where I didn't want it to blend in with the next section. So this brush was really nice to work with. I also had some flat brushes that I had used. So this one was kind of, a flat brush that I also took advantage of for getting in some of the little areas that I didn't want the paint to really trail into other spots that I didn't want it to trail into. So I had a lot of fun with these, and working with lots of different colors and really trying to have each painting have its own color scheme. So that last one was more like purples, magentas, and blues. This is more of like a red, orange, and yellow. So I definitely use this as an opportunity to kind of come up with different color themes. I did this one with browns and tans because I don't usually use those colors. And I thought it would be great to have some more variety in my work. And it kind of reminded me of just like really earthy brown, like mud. And then I thought about like some of the clay masks that I'll sometimes put on my face for stress relief. So that was kind of something else I was thinking of. The mountains, fall leaves, all those sorts of things were in the back of my mind when I was deciding on what colors. And then I would just start off with the large brush first, make those trails of water, and then just dip the fine brush into color and let it spread. Now, not all of them turned out the way I wanted to. This one, I accidentally had a lot of spots where the color ended up blending up with some of the sections. So instead of just throwing it out, I was like, whatever, I just did a wash over it. And there is a nice white edge because I do tape my edges down on watercolor paper. You should always do that on your watercolor paper. So I just kind of ran the water across all of it and ended up deciding this can be like a background for a doodle. So I don't have to go and throw it out, because it seems pretty wasteful to just throw out something just because it didn't turn out how you wanted to. You can find ways to mix it into another painting with collage, or I really love using this as a background for a doodle. Now, this one is also the last one, but it is also one where it didn't turn out quite how I hoped it would, but I decided to just kind of keep with it and see what would happen. Too many puddles showed up on here. The watercolor paper did kind of get some waves in it. And I was using, I don't know if I said this, I don't think I said this earlier. I was using a smooth watercolor paper. I don't usually use hot press watercolor paper. I really like using watercolor paper that has texture on it. So hot press papers, it's almost like you're ironing out the paper because it has such a smooth surface to it. And I don't usually use that. So that's why I used this paper for this particular project, because I wasn't going to be too upset if things didn't work out. So you can definitely see here how there's all those spots where the watercolor just completely like feathers out and kind of gets super fuzzy. There were so many spots like that on this paper, so it wasn't as controlled as it was on the other paper. And I also think I got a little crazy with the water. I was just completely enamored by how the water would just blend with the watercolor, and you would just, put your brush in the water and all of the color would disperse. So like in these areas here, it got to be too much water. So by the time this dried, it ended up looking a bit of a hot mess. Once it dried, let me get it focused so that way you can see the whole thing better, but it ended up being too much of a hot mess for me. Now, some people might look at this and think, what are you talking about? This looks amazing. And then some people might be like, yeah, you're right. That looks terrible. But, when people look at art, they see different things. So some people might see this and think, that's fantastic. I love that. I would love to do that. Some other people might see it and think, wow, what were you thinking? But this really was a really good stress relief project. And I really enjoyed doing it. I'm going to continue making these. I still have a bunch of that hot press watercolor paper left, so I will definitely keep going with these. This next grouping of paintings, these are probably some of my favorite paintings. Right now I have them covered, and I also have like a protective layer of paper, and I am wearing gloves for this because these are some completed paintings. They are already in their mats. These are my gouache paintings. I don't actually have specific titles that I use for these paintings. They're just numbered because I just decided to make them a numbered series. And I think that's totally fine. And I just couldn't think of titles for these. I just wanted them to be as they were. I think sometimes when you title stuff, sometimes people automatically think, okay, that's all that piece of artwork can be. But I kind of like having it just be numbered in a series, because then whoever looks at it, the viewer, they can have their own ideas and experiences on what they think it looks like and what they think it is. All right, so I'm going to take the little protective sheet off the top here. And there you go. There's one of the gouache paintings. Now, I just put these up on Etsy maybe a week ago. So one of these has already sold. I had one that was on orange paper. It's already sold. So I'm so sorry. If it was something you were looking at, 'tis gone. But I really enjoy working with this toned paper. It's a paper I found from Texas Art Supply, and it's by the brand Talons. It's really nice. It's an A4 size, and I know in the US we don't use the European sizes like that, so it can be kind of an odd shape from what we're used to. And I know sometimes when you're trying to find a frame, sometimes that can be difficult, and so that's why I automatically put these in an 11 by 14 mat. So I custom cut every single one of these mats myself. It's really not that difficult for me to do it because I used to be an art teacher and we would have art contests all the time for the kids, art displays all the time for the kids. And so I was constantly matting artwork. So that's why doing it on these, I don't mind it. And I feel like it really helps out to have it already in the mat. So all you have to do when you buy it is just have an 11 by 14 frame and it's ready to pop it in there. And on the back of all of them, I make sure to have the number, and then I make sure to sign it and put on there the month and the year that I created. So it's nice and secure in this mat. And I love, love, love using the Hemi gouache with these. This series is actually my first time using this brand of gouache. It's like a jelly gouache. And I had no idea what the consistency was going to be other than jelly. I didn't know if it was going to be like a transparent type jelly. But then gouache is meant to be somewhat opaque. If you don't know what gouache is, think about acrylic paint and watercolor paint had a baby. That's the best way I can describe it. So it's definitely water soluble and you can thin it out as much as you need to, but you can also work with it and it is nice and opaque. So I found that it pairs so well with the Talons toned paper. So this Talons paper, it does come in two different sets. There's the cool colors and the warm colors. And I absolutely love experimenting with how those papers look with the watercolor. Well, the gouache, excuse me. Look at me sitting over here calling the gouache watercolor. But it's gouache. And I know that I would not have been able to achieve this look on this paper using watercolor. I feel like it would have been a little bit more difficult. The gouache really does act like an acrylic paint. And so it really is easy to control, get nice bold color, and it just looks absolutely gorgeous on this paper. And I'm obsessed with this paper. So I randomly saw it at Texas Art Supply and I said, ooh, I like these colors. I need to try this. And it did not disappoint. I just cannot believe how great it makes the gouache look on it. It's such a difference on the toned paper. So like this cream color that comes in the stack, I actually don't use the cream paper as often because it's so close to regular paper, but I do like using the cream one just to challenge myself to see what else, I can do with those gouache colors on just the cream paper. But man, when you look at it, it's on the orange paper. Oh my God. I don't have an orange one anymore because somebody bought it. But I do need to buy some more of that paper so I can have more of the orange color. But the different tones, other than the cream, it just makes the colors pop so much. It makes the gouache look so nice. And I know I would not have been able to get this with using acrylic paint. The acrylic paint would end up being shiny on here, and I really don't like that, and the watercolor wouldn't have been this vibrant. So the gouache really is a perfect marriage between those two types of paint. And you just get such a great vibrancy, and it just really does feel like it pops. And that's also why I liked putting the matte with these already, because I feel like the white matte also helps these colors just really pop as well. Look at that. And I do try to challenge myself too about different colors that I pick from the gouache palette. This one that I have has, I believe, 24 colors in it, the gouache that I currently have. They have sets that have even more colors, and part of me really wants one of those sets. But I'm really trying to get myself to work with a limited palette, and which, 24 probably doesn't seem like that limited of a palette, but try to get myself to not feel like I need every single green and blue and red and pink in the world, and try to see what I can do with what's in front of me. I feel like sometimes, I know I do this with acrylic paint, I get so excited about the paint, I want to use every single color, and then I end up overwhelming myself. So it is nice to get myself to narrow things down a little bit more. But man, this tan paper. I think the tan and the orange are my favorite ones to work with. And then, I did have another orange one. And then the green and the blue also. I love this orange paper, especially with this like kind of purpley periwinkle color on top of it. Fabulous. So if you like any of these, if you're interested in any of these, I do have these on my Etsy page. They are ready for you to pop into a frame, and I make sure these are so secure whenever they ship, and making sure nothing happens to them in the shipping process. I do double cardboard, plus I do more cardboard on the corners to make sure those are nice and secure, and then it ships out. So, these are so cool. I love these so much. I get excited about making these because it also is a lesson in mark making, and you can experiment. I know I can do this on other artwork, but for some reason, working small like this, because I usually work really big, working small like this forces me to really focus on the brushwork and experiment with ways of layering the brushwork. So I just absolutely love these. So check out my Etsy site if you're interested in any of these. Thank y'all so much for watching, especially those of you that subscribed and you have no idea who I am and you subscribed anyway. Thank you so much. Again, please check out my Etsy site. If you'd like to purchase something, it would mean the world to me, and it truly is the difference between having grocery money or not while I'm looking for another job. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, if you're not already subscribed, please do so. I promise you I will get more videos out to you, and I definitely found some more art techniques that I want to show on this channel in the future. So have a fabulous day, and thank you for being here.